Right now, honey, we need to talk to a professional. Is that how you start a conversation with your partner about seeking out couples therapy? Or is there a better way to broach the subject? Plus, what happens during your sessions with a therapist? What sort of problems can a therapist actually help you fix? Nahum Kozak is a psychologist who specialises in couples counselling. Nahum, thank you so much for joining us on the program. I just wanted to begin with the fact that there are many reports about mental health out this week because it's Mental Health Week. And the picture painted is fairly grim. GPs reporting a surge in the number of people asking for referrals, the Australian Association of Psychologists telling the ABC that there are long waiting lists throughout Queensland. Can I just begin by asking you, what's been your experience this year as a psychologist, as a couples therapist? What have you seen?
Absolutely. Well, there's definitely been an uptick in take-up. So there have been a lot more people seeking therapy, seeking help, and wanting to know how to cope, in these difficult times.
And in a way, that's good that people are taking action, trying to find ways to address mental health problems. But at the moment, do we feel like we're able to keep up with demand? Is there a long waiting list to come and see you, for example? Waiting lists have definitely increased. Normally in the past, I would be happy operating on a 2 to 3 week, I'm booked out for 2 to 3 weeks, but after that I've got some availability. Now, however, my next in-person availability isn't until December, so that's quite a difference to before. And it's kind of one of the things that's forced me to do, and a number of therapists, is to get creative around how we offer services. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, I am able to offer video call or phone consults sooner than December, because that doesn't require me having a room available. It means I can do a consult from my home office. And also, of course, we do the marathon therapy at North Brisbane Psychologists, so that couples can have the help that they need over a couple of days rather than over several months. Right. So it's there's a lot of pivoting happening, but whether we're anywhere near, I don't know if we're anywhere near meeting the need. Yeah, there is a big need, you're quite right. Yeah, and a need, I guess, that was in some part recognised in the federal budget, a doubling of Medicare-funded psychology sessions from 10 to 20. Would that cover something like couples counselling, Nahum?
Medicare's never covered couples therapy, unfortunately. I think that there's a strong case for it, because you're helping quite possibly a whole family unit when you do couples therapy. You're helping two individuals, the relationship that helps those two individuals keep going, and any dependence that they have. So unfortunately, it doesn't have an impact, although I think there should be a strong case for couples therapy being covered by Medicare, although it is covered by some private health funds, and it's worth people looking into whether they might make adjustments to their policy or check out what their policy actually is.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm someone who doesn't mind saying that I see a psychologist fairly regularly, have done for some years. There's a big history of mental health problems in my family. And Nahum, I find sometimes at the end of a session, I've learned all these things, and I wanted to just sort of disperse the information to the people that it's relevant to. And that's not just me. Often it's the other people that I have relationships with, mum, dad, kids, partner, the whole spectrum. Is families counselling an option as well? I mean, we're talking about couples and we'll get into that in a moment, but do we do families therapy much in Queensland?
Families therapy is something that some people do. I haven't done much myself, although I've done some training in Milan Systems family therapy. It should be a thing, shouldn't it? Between you and me, we're going to fix the world, aren't we? What I love is what you said about how you go, and it's not just you benefiting from you being vulnerable and going through this process that really takes courage and strength. It is a mark of the strength of your character, but that you disseminate that, and you do that to your family, and also you do that through this show to the world. So it's a really good case in point. I also have seen a psychologist in the past, and probably will again, because I know it's there are times that we used to be a village, we used to live in smaller communities and not have houses with big fences in between. And you could go to, some older person in the village and go, hey, what did you do when such and such happened in your life, and get the help you need. But now, like the niche is kind of filled a bit by psychologists, counsellors, pastors, and all these helping professions that are out there, because, we've become a bit more insular.
Nahum Kozak with you on ABC Radio Brisbane and Queensland, a psychologist at North Brisbane Psychologists, specialising in couples, working with couples, and it could be something that maybe you've thought about. Maybe some couples therapy could help you address some of the concerns that you have, the problems within your relationship. So what's involved? Nahum, first off, how do you even bring that up as part of conversation without putting off your partner or making them feel worried, I guess, about what you're trying to say or what they think you might be trying to say?
Absolutely. Really good question. And I think it can be a bit about knowing what you're asking for or what you're seeking from your partner. So it's worth finding out a little bit, doing a bit of Googling, what's involved in couples therapy. When you come to it, when you come to having the conversation with your partner, I think it's worth framing it as, look, this is something that might be really helpful for us. I know I kind of thought that when we got into this that we'd know how to fix anything that kind of came up, but it kind of turns out that our relationship didn't come with a manual. And I'm not quite sure what to do. I think it might be worth getting some extra help. Kind of framing it, what am I trying to say there? Framing it as something that is a sign of the strength of your relationship, that you can seek help. And often when couples come in to see me, like one of the first things I'm saying is, just be reassured, no one comes to tell me that their relationship is going really, really well. And in fact, we know that conflict's a really normal part of relationship, and struggles are a really, really normal part of being human. So congratulations for coming in the door. That's the one of the really hard bits done.
Yeah.
I think kind of normalising it is really helpful. And because it was, and there is to an extent, still a stigma around seeking help. We don't like to do it, especially men. We like to believe that, A, that we don't cry, and B, that emotions are like things that we don't explore, and C, then we have to carefully hide anything that looks flawed and only show what we're good at, and really just stick to that and hope no one figures out that we're fakes. There's probably a huge overlap with women as well, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair assessment. Yeah.
But there's this thing of okay, well, let's take off the mask a bit and go, yeah, we're struggling here. If we had a struggle with our plumbing, we wouldn't just try and, cover up the smell by spraying around the room a whole lot. And we wouldn't, we might try and tinker ourselves, but eventually we'd go, someone might be able to help us out here for the little time that it will take to get things going, and then we'll be able to manage the rest ourselves afterwards.
Well, let's talk about the ways in which therapy can help. It's 10 minutes to 2, news at 2. Couples counselling is the focus of the conversation right now with Nahum Kozak here on ABC Radio Brisbane and Queensland. What can you get out of couples therapy? What problems can actually be addressed, Nahum?
Sure. Biggest thing is communication. And one of the struggles that can happen there is when we talk about stuff, I get so upset that I eventually am not actually listening to you. It's just you talk, you talk, you talk. I get offended, and then I talk. And it's both people saying stuff and not really other person listening. So one of the biggest areas where counselling can help is slowing communication down so that things can progress a lot faster. So we need to slow down the communication and go, hang on, let me make sure I really understand what you're saying. So I get couples to take turns to speak, and give them a structure for saying what they want to say so that they don't cause collateral damage incidentally, and to say what they really mean. And also get them, to have a way of talking, and also have a way of listening. Because we think listening is just this thing where we
sit there and hear the words that the other person's saying, and both parties assume that they know what was said. Whereas if we get the person listening to paraphrase back, to say, okay, I'm a little confused. I think I heard you right. If I'm hearing you right, you're saying X, Y, Z. And then that gives the first person the opportunity to correct them. So communication is one of the biggest skills that we work on, because if you're able to communicate and really feel understood by one another, you've then got a toolkit to start working on every other aspect of the relationship.
What about couples, I guess, in crisis? I mean, it might be a couple that have identified that they're having arguments or disagreements, or they're not seeing eye to eye on certain issues, and they're sick of the tedious fighting that can take place. But then there are other times where a relationship hits a crisis, something devastating happens, and that might be a job loss or an affair or the loss of a child, like all of that kind of stuff. Couples counselling, does that address that kind of crisis management, that crisis response, Nahum?
All of those things that you mentioned are really every relationship and every person will get hit by something at some stage. And they're things that, so one of the things that you mentioned was loss of a child. So many people have experienced a loss. My partner and I lost a baby before they were born. Very early in the pregnancy, but we're still very affected by that.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
That's all right. Thank you for saying that. We each sought help individually. My partner had some people that she was able to speak with. I had some people that I spoke with. But we also spoke to one another. We didn't seek couples counselling in that instance because our communication was really good and we were able to talk it through. But if that situation, I have had that situation arise for couples who've come to me for couples counselling, and what they've needed to learn, or what they've sought to learn, is how to draw closer to one another in the midst of this pain. Because we can have things hit us from outside the relationship, and it can, if we let it, it can force us apart. Or if we let it, it can be this thing where I learn that sometimes I'm the weak person in the relationship and I need to lean on your strength. And I do lean on my partner's strength a lot. She's an amazing woman. And there are times that she leans on my strength as well. And there are times that we're both feeling weak and we try and help one another out, or we seek help from others. So to kind of like round that out, the role of couples therapy there, I would see as if people were seeking couples therapy while some other stressor was happening outside the relationship, would be how do we interpret this in a way that helps us lean on one another more, become closer, so that this beautiful nest that we're building together is the stronger for it eventually, rather than me try to pretend that everything's okay, hide my emotions, and then incidentally bring in loneliness because I'm not showing that I'm, what I'm going through.
It really, and again, Nahum, I'm so sorry for your loss. It does, in some ways, go towards the complexity of mental health, and that seeking help is necessary. The path to that help might necessarily be easy, and that if you kind of listen to some of the stereotypes surrounding couples therapy as it's a couple who, the marriage is broken and it's a disaster and that's why they're in therapy and I'm so glad I'm not in that relationship. It diminishes the value of therapy because, as you've just articulated so beautifully, there are many reasons why you may seek help through couples therapy or individually. For anyone who is thinking about therapy today, Nahum, what would be your message this afternoon to them?
Certainly. Have a think about what it is that you want and try to find a service that goes with that need. For instance, if there's relationship pain and you're like, well, this is actually the area that I most want to work on, look at couples therapists to help with that, and look for couples therapists who are trained in a method of couples therapy. If it's something else, though, if it's that, look, my son is making some really, I'm just not understanding some of the things that are happening. I've heard a bit about ADHD or ASD, and I need to find out more. Like, seek a therapist who understands those disorders and works from that area. So in that instance, you might look for an educational and developmental psychologist, for instance. So try to, my advice would be, just before you dial, have a think about what it is that you need, because it can be quite frustrating if if you leap in with a therapist thinking that I can see any therapist for any need, and then be surprised, oh, hang on, I just need to redirect you to someone else. And the second thing would be, so after having a think about what you want, would be take the leap, get some more information. Educate yourself so that you're in a position to go, all right, I know pretty much kind of what I'm stepping into when I make the choice to do this.
Nahum, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
It's always a pleasure.
Nahum Kozak is a psychologist who specialises in couples counselling at North Brisbane Psychologists. And if you think you would benefit from talking to someone, there are people who can listen to you right now. You can call Lifeline at any time. The phone number is 131 114. That's 131 114. Don't forget, there are many other services that cater to different types of needs, Beyond Blue, for example, Kids Helpline, and there is a suicide callback service as well, 1300 659 467.